morning, everybody. It's actually super early today that I'm getting up and getting this done so that I can get this loaded up for you all. Today's mug, we have got Harry Potter. My best friend got me this from Japan. It's my favourite mug, probably. I don't use it that much because I don't want to break it, you know. Also, I've had to put my microphone in a really weird place today, so I hope that doesn't interfere with where I'm talking. But yeah, things that you don't think of until you're sitting down getting yourself set up and you're like, what am I doing? All right, so week 5 of Morning Mug Talks. Again, I just want to thank everyone who's been sending me feedback and letting me know how much they've loved the episodes and how much it's helped them through navigating certain aspects of their life that they could relate to in what I've been sharing. So shout out to all of you. And today's episode, what I want to talk about is adapting to life, right? Because life is always changing. And we are constantly being asked to adapt, to overcome the challenges, to work through the feelings, to have the conversations, to, you know, whenever there's a curveball thrown your way that you're not expecting. I'm actually just going to make sure also I'm recording this, because if I get the inkling I'm not, I am, it's all good. And hopefully that refocuses on me. Yeah, we're always being asked to adapt. Sometimes even life throws us a curveball that's out of, you know, we had no idea it was coming. It's been thrown at us, and so we need to quickly pivot, or it can be something that's really heavy and it starts to swallow us and we don't know how to move through it. So today's episode, I wanted to talk about adapting and a simple framework that I think would help a lot of you, and it's one that I go through myself whenever something is in front of me that I'm like, okay, this is really hard. What do I do here? So some examples for me recently have been something that was given, it was something that was given as a gift, and it then kind of came with conditions and strings attached, and it's something that is not an easy thing to move, but it became very aware to me that I was very uncomfortable in the dynamic that it had created. And so I went through my process of, and it's ADAPTs, right? The ADAPT process. And I went through that process to come to the conclusion of what I had to do to move forwards in order to bring me back to grounding, in order to bring me peace, in order to take complete and utter radical responsibility for the situation, because I do that even if it's not necessarily my fault. I always look at what's my responsibility in it, because a lot of the time our responsibility in a certain scenario or situation is that we are choosing to be there. It's that we are allowing ourselves to continue to perhaps get hurt, or to continue to perhaps be treated poorly, particularly in the relationship sense, or perhaps a job, right? So I look at it and I'm like, how can I take complete responsibility for me in this moment, in this situation? And then I make the plan and I take the action. Good morning, Juki. Say hi, buddy. Say good morning to everybody. Okay, so, and then another thing, you know, like I've had some challenges with a lot of life's finances and things that I'm needing to pay for at the moment. You know, I'm single, and if all you single people out there, you know that means you pay for everything yourself. And so I had a challenge. I was like, okay, I need some more coming in at the moment. What can I do while I'm still building my business up? And I took action and I found what I needed to find, right? Sorry, I just let Duke back out. That's probably going to happen multiple times this morning. So let's go through the process. Accept reality. All right, it's A.D.A.P.T, literally A.D.A.P.T. Super simple for everyone to remember. So accept reality, right? What reality are you currently resisting? Because that's when it's usually going to create that dysregulation, that uncertainty, a lack of clarity, whatever it might be, and that will cause unrest. And when you've got the unrest, it means usually that reality is being challenged in some way, shape, or form. Reality has changed and it needs adaptation. So, what reality are you currently resisting? Right? What's the challenge in front of you? What is the problem? What is the issue? What is the thing that's making you uncomfortable? What is the person that's making you uneasy? Okay, so identify the problem. Accept the reality. The next one is define your responsibility within the dynamic, within the problem, within the issue, within the challenge. So if it's in a relationship, for example, and you're perhaps in a relationship with someone and you know, or you're dating somebody and you know that they simply, it's not meeting you where you want to be met. It doesn't feel completely aligned. It's not working out, or maybe you're being spoken to poorly or treated poorly, or you're not getting the needs met that you need to get met. So it's accepting that that's the reality, and then you're looking at your responsibility within that. Have you had the conversations with the person? Are you choosing to stay somewhere where your gut tells you it's not right to be? Are you choosing to continue to be treated a certain way because you're scared to speak up for yourself? Are you worried that maybe they'll abandon you if you speak up? Are you worried that you might lose your job or get yelled at work if you speak up for what's right? Okay, so define your responsibility within that, and that would be looking at what are my fears, like what am I choosing right now? How am I being in this particular moment? Because we can always leave an environment that is not healthy for us. We can always leave a toxic environment, whether it's work, relationships, dating, whatever it is. Obviously, disclaimer, I'm not saying this to people who are in the extreme most cases. Like, yes, you can leave, but I understand that, if there's other things happening that are really dangerous, then you're going to need a more sophisticated plan. But what are you choosing to take? What are you choosing to put up with? What are you choosing to abandon yourself in? What are you choosing to maintain fears around? What are you choosing to stay comfortable in, even though you're uncomfortable in, right? So define your responsibility within the dynamic. Okay. And maybe it is getting another job, and it's like, oh, I don't want to have to give that time away to that job, or I'm going to lose that time for myself. I'm going to have to change my schedule. I'm going to have to adapt. I'm going to have to, fit more things in, whatever it might be. Perhaps you have had an injury and you've been taken out of action from playing sport or from being able to do just like the day-to-day things, right? So it would be, all right, my responsibility within this is to ensure that I take complete care of this injury, and then I decide, is going back to that sport that maybe injured you or that workplace that injured you, is that the right call for me for what I want in my life, right? You have to always bring it back to an alignment, and I'll get to that at the end. So we've got accept reality, define your responsibility. The next one is assess what needs attention, all right? So once you've looked at the reality and your responsibility in it, it's like, all right, well, what's the plan? Assess the problem, look at what your goal is, bridge the gap. What needs to happen for you to go from this discomfort, this uncomfortable place, this challenge, this problem, this issue, to peace, to being grounded again, to solving the problem, the issue, the challenge, to moving through it. right? The obstacle is the way, feel the fear, do it anyway, all of these things. So it's accept reality, define your responsibility, assess what needs attention, and then prioritize peace, which I already kind of mentioned. So that's the goal, right? To get back to a peaceful state, to get back to being grounded. So what would help me feel grounded again? What is going to help me to have peace again? What's going to help me sleep through the night again and not wake up overthinking, right? And usually it's going to be taking action, whether it looks like a conversation, sharing how you feel, asking for your needs, making a decision to walk away from something, make a decision to whatever the problem is, right? And then the last one is take aligned action. So that's adapt, accept reality, define your responsibility, assess the situation, prioritize peace, take aligned action. And the reason why I say specifically for you to take aligned action is because there's obviously going to be action that you can take within the problem that you're facing or the challenge that you're facing that might not actually be aligned with your values, and it could be easily very reactionary, and that means that you're reacting to the issue, the problem, life, instead of responding to it from a place of your values, from you taking responsibility for all of what you bring to the current problem situation, because it's always that you do. I want to stress this. I don't want you guys to hear me drinking. I want to stress the responsibility piece. So many people live in victimhood. So many people, you bring your needs to them and they are going to see it as an attack on their character, as an attack on their personality. And what will happen in that situation is they will offload their discomfort of feeling attacked and getting defensive back onto you. And that will mean that you've tried to bring up something that's been weighing on you. You've shared how they've made you feel or something they've done that's hurt you. And if that person immediately deflects it back to you, throws it in your face, says, oh, but you did this, or whatever it might be, if it's defensive and reactionary and it comes back at you, that person has not heard you. That person has been triggered by their own stuff and they've offloaded that discomfort back onto you instead of sitting in it and looking at themselves and wondering why they're triggered. And when they offload it back onto you, that means you've just been dismissed, minimized, your needs haven't been met in that moment. And now not only are you feeling what you felt before that's not being repaired, you're also now being loaded onto with the new thing that they've just said and done that's going to hurt you, right? So really look at what's your responsibility in that particular situation. The responsibility is to let them know that they haven't heard you, that you don't feel seen, to let them know that you don't feel heard. One thing with communication is don't ever say you did this, you did that. How can you be that and do this? You can take the good, then you have to take the bad, right? If anyone ever says that, like the you, and when you're communicating, don't say you, because it will immediately put that person into defense mode, right? So when you're sharing and communicating how you feel or something that's happened, it's I don't feel heard, or I don't feel seen, or I don't feel like what I'm sharing is being taken on board. I feel dismissed, I feel minimized, whatever it is, right? It all has to be your responsibility on how you feel in the moment. So if you take that to someone and then they throw it back at you, right? They're uncomfortable, they feel like they're on the defense now, or that you've hurt them in some way just by sharing what you needed, then when they deflect that back to you and they react and they get defensive, That person's not emotionally safe. They are not an emotionally safe person to bring your stuff to, which means over time, particularly in relationships or dating, over time what's going to happen is you will stop bringing your stuff to them. But whilst you choose to stay in the relationship and you choose to go quiet and you choose to become silent, you abandon your needs. So that would be your responsibility in that particular moment, is that you choose to stay somewhere that can't hold you emotionally. You choose to stay somewhere where you're having to abandon your emotions and feelings because the other person simply hasn't got the emotional intelligence or the maturity to be able to hold them, to be able to want to make your life better. When you say these things, it's all you're doing. You're just wanting to improve the relationship. You're just wanting to build a safer love. You're wanting to build something that means something to you. And when you get shut down for that and you choose to stay, your responsibility in that particular moment is that you chose to stay. I really just wanted to clearly define that for everybody, because this is a process that I go through in my mind whenever I'm facing something, and it's become so much so that I just do it on autopilot now. And I was thinking the other day, I'm like, what can I talk about with everybody? And I thought about some challenges that I'm having, and I was like, right, what's my process? Because a lot of people in my life often will tell me, oh, you're so disciplined, like you're so good at just doing this and you're so good at doing that. And I'm like, I'm not good at it. I've had to learn how to do these things, but what is the thing that I'm doing? I'm like, how can I teach that to everybody else? So this would be the process. And in the end, when you're taking aligned action, you're wanting to take the action that, like, we want peace. I mean, I don't know about everybody else. I'm gonna speak for myself and not for all of you, but I want a peaceful life. I want a life that is peaceful and grounded, where my nervous system is regulated. I want to still be able to adapt to things, so I'm going to expose myself to hard things because I don't want to ever lose the ability to be able to adapt and adjust and move and pivot. I think it's a really, really beneficial quality to have as a human being. Sometimes it gets exhausting constantly having to do it if you're in a season of constantly having to do it. But at the end of the day, it's better than the alternative of staying stuck, of feeling defeated, of not moving forward, of like being the victim of every scenario and every situation. Like, oh yeah, but they did that to me, or oh yeah, but that happened to me, or oh yeah, like, it's just like that constant complaining of like, yeah, this is just my life. Bullshit. It's not just your life. You have absolute control of the choices you make that put you into the places where you are not happy. So taking aligned action is super important. Taking a sip of my coffee, moving the microphone. It's gonna go cold, guys. I need to drink faster. But I am talking, so that's okay. So taking aligned action. Right? It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, take imperfect action. Feel the fear that you feel in having to have the conversation or in having to make the decision to do what you need to do for you, or to take the new job or quit the current job to take a new one, or maybe it's leaving a relationship that you've tried and tried and tried so hard to get better and you just cannot, and it's the hard decision of leaving. Or maybe it's it's that you just can't do the things that you used to do, and the change is that you have to downsize your house, or you have to stop doing some things that you've always loved to do because your body just isn't letting you do them anymore. Like look at a lot of athletes, and they play really hard, heavy sport. They put their body through a lot of things and they get injured. And even, here's another example to throw onto that, right? Okay, you've got athletes, you've got everyday people who are getting injured, and instead of doing the physio and the rehab, they are going to the easy, quick fix of peptides or whatever else they use for these things. But peptides, human growth hormones, whatever, right? They're using that. They're not doing the rehab as strictly as they could, and then they're going back to sport too soon. They're going back to sport too early, and then the injury hasn't fully healed with the time that it needed because they thought that the substances that they were adding to their body to help speed up the process of recovery would just work. And then they go back to sport and they injure it twice as bad, and then they're out maybe for life, right? That's not the right decision to make in that particular moment, but it's aligned for what they want and what they need in the moment, right? So it's looking at the whole situation, taking aligned action. If you didn't notice, I totally just lost my train of thought of where I was going with that. Maybe it'll come back to me and we'll circle back around. And I don't edit these, guys. I do not edit these morning mug talks at all, because I just want them to be fully authentic. I want you to just be here with me in the moment, and it's very casual, and we're just having a chat, so I don't edit them. So when I do lose my train of thought, if I don't come back, I'm sorry, because it's really gone, and I'm not going back to rewatch what I was just talking about to get it back. If it's gone, it's gone. I'm just going to keep following the direction of where I need to go, and we'll see where we land. So yeah, it's taking aligned action. It's going to be imperfect, right? And I think that's where I was going. I think it came back to me, right? So it's having the conversations. If you're an athlete and you chose to go the easy route because you overrode your responsibility within the certain thing, like within the injury, by trying to take the shortcut that ultimately led to a worse outcome. Your decision was not doing the rehab or listening to the professionals, right? It was thinking that this would be the easy fix, and it created more problems. So the responsibility piece in this step is huge, but taking aligned action is more important. You need to look at, what are my values? What do I want for the long term? This doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be imperfect. I'm going to take action. I'm going to feel the fear and do it anyway. And I'm going to make the decisions to do these things deliberately, right? You're taking deliberate action that's aligned with your values and your goals. So this would be the process that I really recommend that people look at and go through whenever they're facing some kind of challenge, issue, problem, obstacle, hurdle, whatever you want to call it. A, accept the reality. D, define your responsibility. A, assess what needs attention. P, prioritize peace. T, take aligned action. Adapt. Super easy, right? How do we adapt? How do we pivot to the problem, to the situation? So yeah, that would be my process on what I would recommend doing, and it works for me. And the reason it works for me is because I look at most situations to the best of my ability as a whole, and I don't react. I really try my best to not react to situations or to things that people bring to me. I will sit on it, and I might sit on it for too long, but I will sit on it until I have gone through this process. And when I finally take action, I've really made my decision. I've really come to the conclusion of, this is the right call for me, and this is what I need to do in order for me to get grounded again, in order for me to have peace, in order for me to not abandon myself, in order for me to not just stay quiet and go with the flow, right? For all the people pleasers out there, you all will feel me on this. It might take me months, particularly if it's a conversation that I need to have with someone who I really care about. I will sit on it for quite some time. And I'm working on trying to get better at doing that far quicker. But as someone who's been a people pleaser for most of her life in a lot of different aspects when it comes to the people like in my close circle, I will sit on it because I want to make sure that what I've experienced from the person or what they've said to me, I need to make sure that it's really important for me that I do say something. I need to filter it through multiple levels of, okay, so why might they have said that? Where did that come from? How did it make me feel? Is this something that's on repeat? Is this a situation or a scenario that could be happening again in real time that actually caused a lot of damage the first time it happened? And I know it's not bringing me peace. I know that I am not sleeping because I might wake up overthinking about it. Or I'm that person or that conversation or those things that happen are constantly coming back into my train of thought, right? That usually means that we've got a problem underlying that we need to handle. And I will go through everything and I'm like, what is my responsibility here? What do I need to do to remove this from being a problem for me? And you know what? A lot of the time it's going to happen with people. You're constantly going to have these issues with people who are defensive, who are reactive, who don't repair well, who just haven't done the actual work to be able to communicate from a place of like love and kindness. They're coming from a different agenda and a different belief system about you, about people in general. So that means you're always going to be met with some kind of being unheard and not feeling seen by that person. And they're the hardest ones because it's like, how many times do I have to have the conversation, right? How many times do I have to revisit this to be heard and to be seen and to not be made to feel worse when I bring something to them because they then throw it back on you and deflect onto you? Your choice in those relationships is how much access you give them. If you know they're not emotionally safe, stop going to them with emotions. If you know they can't hold you because whatever reason they want to give you at the time, then your choice in that particular relationship is that you keep exposing yourself to the pain and the hurt. And the hardest decision is for you to start protecting that. And that might mean withdrawing. And if that person has narcissistic tendencies, that might then get thrown back onto you as well, as in like, this is your fault that we've ended up here, whatever it might be. But the choice for you is, if you want to take responsibility for a life that is grounded, regulated, peaceful, it has kindness, has love, has emotional safety, then you need to walk away from that person ultimately in some way, shape or form. I would start with emotionally removing yourself so that you can protect your emotional space and your emotional peace, so that you're not having to then handle and deal with more emotional pain, because that shit takes years. I mean, like, everyone who's listening to this who's been through hard emotional stuff or painful relationships, or bullying at work, bullying at school, whatever it is, that's not a broken bone that heals in 6 weeks. That's years of work to heal, to rebuild your confidence, to rebuild the simple understanding that you are worth it just because you're alive, that you are valued, that it takes years to rebuild your self-worth, your self-value, your confidence, your belief in yourself to do things. It takes a long time. It costs money and it's painful. Yes, it's better to come through it because you can come to this place of like, okay, that doesn't work for me, I'm going to walk away. And you get really good at that when it's appropriate. I'm not saying walk away from everything that hurts you because that's not adapting to life. But it takes a long time to heal the wounds of mean, horrible shit that people say to you or do to you. Especially when that person is supposed to be somebody who unconditionally loves you, right? So you have to start learning to protect your peace, and you have to take responsibility for your position in that relationship, whether it's choosing to stay, whether it's abandoning yourself, whatever it is, whether it's not speaking up and defending yourself more often. I don't like someone who loves you just shouldn't be saying horrible things to you to begin with, but it does happen because people, especially in intimate relationships and families, but you need to go through the process and decide what actually is hurtful, what is just they're having a moment, and go through this adapt process. And let me know how you go with it. Let me know how you go applying these principles to real life scenarios that you're currently experiencing, and if this is helpful for you. I know it works for me. And because you know what, ultimately at the end of the day, once you've gone through this, there's not much else that you could have possibly done to come to the decision that you've come to. Which means when you make the decision, you don't regret it. You don't regret going through this process, really understanding yourself and knowing where you're at, being able to come in, being as regulated as possible. And you get to show up knowing who you are, standing up for yourself, doing the thing, adapting to the change, addressing the problem, the issue. You come to it after going through this process at a space of I'm not going to regret making this decision because I've actually thought about it. This isn't reactionary. This is me responding after doing my own due diligence on myself and the situation. So you're not going to regret it. All right. So let me know if you're going through anything at the moment. Apply this. Tell me what comes up. If you want to book a session with me to go over this in your life because you just need that outside person, a coach, who you can share all of the feelings that you're having and the emotions you're having around the particular issue, but you're still overthinking and you have no idea which way to go because you just don't trust yourself. You don't trust yourself to take the decision and make the decision that's going to get you the result that you're actually looking for, because maybe you're really scared, or maybe you're I feel like I've done this before and it just didn't end well. Book in a session with me. Just DM me, let me know, and we'll get you going. And I'll help you to go through this process, and I will help to bring in the bird's eye view of someone who's not emotionally invested in your particular situation, and I will coach you through it. And I will coach you through the fear. I'll coach you through what's been happening. I will tell you whether or not you're being gaslit, whether or not you are being dismissed and minimized, or whether perhaps it's the decision that you're trying to make is coming from the wrong place, because that can also be an issue. So let me know how you go with this process. I'm super eager to hear, because my second episode on When Life Gives You Lemons was really relatable for a lot of people. And so I think this will be too. I believe this is going to help a lot of people. I'm going to see how long we've been going for. 34 minutes, guys. This is the longest one, but it's about the same time. I don't know why this is the magic number for me, the 30-minute mark. Okay, I hope that refocused too. I hope you all have the most beautiful Wednesday today, and enjoy your day. I look forward to next week's episode as well, and seeing you all there, and sending you lots of love. Bye.